Alright, welcome everybody to Shadow War of Succession, the game that has the dubious honor of being the worst fighting game I've ever played. We're on the 3DO for this one, and we will be doing a run through Advanced Mode, the most difficult mode in the game. Although difficult is a relative term in this game. This game is going to be a feast for the eyes more so than the ears. And my character of choice for this will be Carlos. And we will get going in 3, 2, 1, go. Oh boy. You get one of the most difficult fights right off the bat. So it's a rule that I have to stay silent before and after all of the fights, because there's voice acting in this game.
I've whipped people 10 times better than you.
And that is actually the first RNG that you deal with in the game, is who talks before the fight, because some people have more dialogue than others. And that's a way that you can gain or lose time that's completely out of your hands. And you're likely also noticing that I am just doing a lot of projectile spamming, and that is because the fighting mechanics in this game are completely busted. The CPU usually has priority on absolutely everything. If you try throwing a kick and then the CPU kicks you in the foot, you will take damage. If you get stuck in the corner, there's like very little recovery time, so the CPU can just like spam you to death with whatever the attacks they want. In Anvil's case, he likes to do like a Sub-Zero-esque slide. And a lot of running this game is figuring out who has like the most effective projectiles in the game, and unfortunately for me, it's Anvil. Because his projectiles can kind of hit like medium-low, which is where you want most of them to hit. If they're too high, and oh, this is bad. If they're too high, then the opponent ducking can cause the projectile to miss their hitbox. And I should be able to work this out. He's not in an ideal position, so another part of the run is compensating for lag. And when you run this game, you want to kind of yo-yo the enemy between a point where he's not out of range of, oh.
Underneath all that garbage, you're just like all the street punks I've wasted before!
Wonderful. You want to yo-yo the opponent so that they're not so far away that they're out of range of your projectile, but you don't want them so close that the camera is zoomed in, because when the camera is zoomed in, the game lags more. Also, it's really frustrating trying to do split of this game, because different enemies have different levels, and then
Prepare to eat lead, baby!
Different levels lag different amounts. So even though all I'm doing is like largely the same input for this, I have to keep inputting it at different speeds. Otherwise, I'll lose my rhythm, and the CPU can get on top of me. Also, as you can probably guess from Nega Carlos over there, they did not have alternate costumes for any of these characters, so their solution was to just turn the brightness down a little bit. And if you're not just absolutely wowed by the animation of the fighters themselves, you can admire the, what is that, 3-4 frames of animation for the smokestack in the background. So projectiles are like the main thing to making this run work, but another important thing is teleportation. Because most of the characters in this game, but not all of them, have some kind of teleport maneuver that will allow them to go to one edge of the screen. And if you're all the way to the left side, it'll cause you to go all the way to the right side of the screen. That said, if you try doing the teleport from the right side of the screen, it's kind of busted and you'll just end up standing in place. So if you see me get stuck on the right side of the screen... I thought the game locked up for a moment. If you see me just, like, get stuck on the right side of the screen...
Underneath all that garbage, you're just like all the street punks I've wasted before!
I'll hop to the other side of the screen instead of trying to teleport. Okay, good. We're going to one of the faster stages of the game now. I believe Viper does have the fastest stage, but he can also be kinda frustrating to fight. It's a run, we got the Viper yell. So Viper, because of that yell, would be the ideal character for speedrunning this. Because he has a teleport, he has an okay projectile, and just by nature of his scream, every time his dialogue choice pops up, he will have the shortest dialogue. However, his projectile has a very long wind-up and, like, a bit too much of a cooldown afterward, so it's not as effective to spam. Oh, he's getting a little too far away. There's a lot of give and take for this. I try to get ahead on health early, so that I can just absorb some attacks instead of having to block them. An ideal time, like end time, for most of these fights would be around like 75 to 80, but the CPU on advanced usually does not cooperate. So, like, anything above 65, I'll usually take.
Underneath all that garbage, you're just like all the street punks I've wasted before!
Now, there's one other really slow stage, and I'm hoping it doesn't happen. It's happening now. Riggs' stage is very slow. Can we at least get his dialogue? Yes.
You killed me once, but now I am more powerful than you can ever imagine.
So, funny thing about this game, they thought, like, of all the things that are wrong with this game, they thought to have character-specific dialogue for, like, individuals that know each other well. So the background to Riggs' dialogue is Carlos got him killed because they were both part of the same, like, underground syndicates. And then the devil allowed Riggs to come back to life and, like, harvest the souls of the living as a way for him to ultimately get revenge against Carlos for his death. Oh, gee. Riggs is another one of those characters who you absolutely do not want to get stuck in the corner against. Because even though his, like, special attacks kind of suck, he has this one particular kick that he loves to spam, which is extremely problematic. Oh, he's too far away. There.
Underneath all that garbage, you're just like all the street punks I've wasted before!
Now, if I remember correctly, we'll have one more slow stage. Yes, and this is the slow stage. So once this is out of the way, the rest of these levels should go fairly quickly. Gabriella, however, can be kind of like Riggs in that her projectile isn't great, but...
You were lucky I wasn't there that night. Now your luck's run out.
But she has a couple of moves that, like, if you get stuck in a corner, the CPU just loves to spam them. Gabrielle is also one of the characters who doesn't have a teleport maneuver. So that combined with her really slow projectile makes her like one of the worst characters to try running this game with. And just playing it casually. Although I don't know why you would ever play this game casually. And she's being unusually cooperative. Usually she likes to hang back much more than this, but I'm kind of trying to bait her in close, and for once, it is actually working.
Underneath all that garbage, you're just like all the street punks I've wasted before!
So again, it's hard to tell because of like the different stages lagging different amounts and not being in a set order. But I think we're on a pretty good pace for this run. Because we just have 2 more fights and then we'll get to the final boss.
Prepare to eat lead, baby!
So this is one of the fastest stages in the game, which means I gotta do my inputs pretty quickly, particularly when the camera is zoomed out. Sasha is another not so great character, but she has a short-range knife stab which has very few frames on it. And if you're anywhere near a corner, the CPU will just do that the entire time. Nope, she's too far away. There we go. Oh, that's another thing is, the game loves eating inputs. So, like, the moment I get out of my particular rhythm...
Underneath all that garbage, you're just like all the street punks I've wasted before!
It's hard to get the character to, like, get back into the projectile spam. Erica's an okay character. Even though she has a sword, like, the range on it is basically the same as a punch. So, it's not that advantageous to her.
Prepare to eat lead, baby!
Okay, Erica's giving me a few more problems than usual. Erica's usually, for whatever reason, one of the more cooperative CPUs. Because a lot of her moves leave her completely wide open for extended periods of time, particularly when she swings the sword and forms the tornado. There's also a lot of cooldown to her projectile, which makes her less than ideal for doing runs like these. Alright, and that will take us to the final matchup. I've got to spam C for a moment to skip past a cutscene. And by a cutscene, I mean a very out-of-focus image with scrolling text over it.
You thought you had me, but deep inside, I still believe in the law. I'll destroy you. Then I'll destroy your empire!
Wonderful. So, the Shadow King is the head of the syndicates that Carlos was pretending to be part of. And he was brought back to life as this being, the Shadow King. Which, he's pretty powerful, but he has one major flaw. He cannot block. Which, when you projectile spam, makes this fight pretty easy. Even if you're playing on advanced. Yeah, that's the one thing that can be problematic, is if he does the flying kick. But other than that, he's kind of a pushover. Time will be coming up soon. That is time. And as far as times go, that is not bad. Record for this category is 14:24. Which, if I just had like a couple more fights go my way... Oh, right. This ending's busted. If I had a couple more fights go my way, maybe had a couple of different dialogue options, it probably would have been closer to the record, but that's still a very solid time. So, shout out to Beetle for making me aware of this event and the great cause associated with it. Thanks for considering me at all for this event, let alone a weird game like this. Like, I don't know how you transition from Arctic Sonic Block to this, but here we are. Yeah, and I hope the rest of the marathon goes well, and hope you all take care.